Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much for joining us here at Railbookers for our online presentation this week, where we'll be looking at some fantastic Italian trips. So I'm really excited to be sharing our top 5 Italian holidays with you this afternoon. Good afternoon to all of you who've taken the time to be with me this afternoon. It's great to have so many of you with us whilst we just wait for the last few people to complete their registration. I can see we've got people as far away as Shanghai on with us this afternoon. So good afternoon. Great to have you with us. And if anybody else wants to share where they're joining from, please do let me know in the questions box. I'm in Kent at the moment this afternoon, speaking to you from my kitchen. Sun is out. Hope you've all got a cup of tea and coffee ready for the next half an hour or so together. I can see we've got people with us from Derby. Good afternoon, Derby. And Essex, fellow Kent inhabitant as well. Good afternoon. And Dorset, hi, York. So far flung. It's great to have you all with us wherever you're joining me from. I'm Anna Davis. I'm your host for our time together. And I'm going to take you through a little bit of an introduction for those of you who may be new to Railbookers before we shortly get into our top 5 Italian holidays by train. So thanks. See a few more people are joining in. So hi to Cornwall, Congleton. Good afternoon. Great to have you with us all over the world. So let's get underway, and starting with some good news, and that is that we have some great special offers running at the moment, which do apply on a number of the holidays that I'm going to share with you this afternoon. We've got £400 off per couple on our Italian holidays via the Alps, which we'll be looking at in a lot more detail shortly. We've also got a £300 saving on our Swiss holidays, and a number of our Italian trips use Switzerland as well, so that would also apply. So a really good time to get something in the diary, in the calendar for next year or into 2022. And more details on those special offers are on our website, railbookers.co.uk/special offers if you'd like any more info. Now, as I say, I'm just going to take a few minutes right at the beginning, just for those who are perhaps newer to Railbookers, just to give you a little bit of an overview about the sorts of holidays we can put together. For those of you who have been on one of these presentations before, I hope you won't mind me just taking a couple of moments, and we'll get into the Italian trips very, very shortly, I promise. Just wanted to mention a couple of points on this slide, really, and that is all around flexibility. So with a Railbookers holiday, you can travel in 2 days' time, perhaps to the Scottish Highlands, or you can travel all the way up to 2 years in advance. So we are able to make bookings today all the way through to the 20th of October 2022. All of that locked in for yourselves with a small deposit, typically £250 per person, and you are ready to go. The other important point is that our holidays really do go anytime, any day, anywhere. So they're not group tours. They're not escorted tours. You travel independently, and therefore you have that flexibility to really create your own itinerary, create exactly the holiday that you're looking for, and therefore nothing in terms of the itinerary is set in stone, not the duration, not the direction of travel even. You can do things in reverse, you can add in extra nights, lots and lots of ways in which we can really tailor it to suit exactly what you're after, and we'll explore that as we go through the specific holidays a bit later on. I also just wanted to underline our maximum flexibility offer that we have in place, recently extended to cover all reservations, both existing and new, made by the 31st of December this year. This was launched back in March in response to COVID, of course, recently been extended to cover all new and existing bookings made by the 31st of December, which gives you the option to change or postpone your holiday up to just 5 days prior to departure without incurring any change or cancellation fees. So if you'd like any more information on that, if you have any questions on that, please do give us a call on the number there at the bottom of the screen, 0203 780 2222. Now, as I mentioned, our holidays are independent and not escorted, but that doesn't mean that you are entirely alone when you travel. So we have a great support network for you when you're away. We have a global team. We have offices around the world, in California, in Massachusetts, in Toronto, Canada, here in London in the UK, and also in Sydney, Australia. So wherever you're traveling with Railbookers, whatever time zone you're in, there will always be somebody awake from the Railbookers office that can assist you should you have any issues whilst you're traveling. and that number always appears on your travel documents that you receive in the few weeks prior to your departure. So as I say, if you need assistance, if you have any problems whilst you're away, give us a call and we can help resolve. Also, just wanted to mention that we've been working with some of the partners that are on the screen here, also a number of others worldwide, for about 16 years now to put together these independent rail holidays. And it is very much a one-stop shop. So the holiday is inclusive of the rail tickets, the rail journeys, but also the hotel accommodation, sightseeing, excursions, transfers, car hire in some cases for further afield destinations as well. So very much a one-stop shop, and we have access to their fares and their timetables well in advance of public opening, so that we can piece together the whole itinerary for you up to 24 months before you wish to travel. And the last point I wanted to make just before we move into the Italian holidays specifically was what the rail operators have had in place for a number of months now to maintain a safe environment for passengers and for staff. And worth remembering that, as has been the case in the UK, the railways have continued to operate as an essential service during this time. So as more and more leisure customers have returned to travel on the rails, well, those staff at the stations and on the trains already very experienced at managing COVID for those travellers. So just a few things here, and these are general points across a wide number of rail operators. If you have any specific questions about any specific rail routes, specific rail companies, then do let us know in the questions box and we can answer that afterwards. But in general, this is what is in place. So not a surprise, I'm sure. Facial coverings required in stations and on trains for both passengers and staff for the duration of the journey. A number, particularly in Europe, a number of European trains have stopped the onboard sale of food and drink for now. Some have resumed, so TGV in France, Eurostar, for example, you can purchase food on board now, but a number of them have still got their bar buffet carriages in the middle of the train. Typically, they're still closed, and that's really to encourage customers to stay in their seats for as much of the journey as possible. Doesn't mean that you can't take your food on board, and of course that's a great benefit of traveling by train anyway, that you can pick up perhaps a bottle of wine and some sandwiches at the station for the journey wherever you may be going. But you will typically find that a lot of the onboard sales have stopped. But again, we can give you the most up-to-date information at the time of your booking. A number of trains have also reduced the amount of seats that they have on sale, so that they are by definition more spacious and not as full, to allow for some social distancing on board as well. They have increased the cleaning regimes throughout the journey, both in the common areas during the train journey, but also at the end of each service with a deep clean of the train set. And then lastly, something that was already in place but has certainly increased in the COVID era, and that is contactless ticket control. So more and more rail companies moving towards PDFs for barcodes, scanning, that sort of thing. So there isn't the physical passing of tickets so much between passengers and staff when they travel. So that's a little bit of an introduction. Let's move into some fantastic Italian holidays to consider for 2021 and indeed into 2022 as well. We're going to start with our Amalfi Coast via the Alps. It's a good place to start because it really demonstrates a very common point about our Italian trips. That's the routing that they tend to take via the Alps into northern Italy. Couple of things that I just wanted to mention from this map initially. That is firstly that we can take care of UK rail for you as well. So if you wanted to start the journey from your local UK station to travel down to London to catch the Eurostar onto the continent, we can take care of that booking for you as well. And secondly, the map here, as you have it, is based on a rail journey out, rail throughout the holiday, and a flight back. Pre-COVID, that was definitely the most popular combination for our European trips, to do one way in each. We are seeing more and more customers looking to do a round trip by rail, and we can of course accommodate that as well. So on this particular trip, you could very easily travel back from Sorrento up into northern Italy and back by train. But just for clarity, this is based on a rail out and a flight back. The other thing to mention is that depending on where you're coming from in the UK, we will always tailor the departure to suit you. So If you're in relative proximity to London, then you could probably get to St Pancras and out to Paris and Geneva in the same day. If you're further afield, we might look to overnight you either in London the night before for an early Eurostar out. We may look to take you to Paris and overnight you there as a suggestion to then travel to Geneva the following day. So again, lots of flexibility based on your starting point and based on, of course, what you would prefer to do. So looking at the itinerary here then, based on a departure from St Pancras in London, you'll travel to Paris on the Eurostar. And in normal operating times, you'd probably have a choice of anywhere between 15 and 18 departures a day on the Eurostar from London to Paris. In Paris, you'll then change stations from the Gare du Nord to the Gare de Lyon, and you will then travel on the high-speed TGV service down directly to Geneva. Just a side note on the connection in Paris, a couple of options to do that. We always include the metro tickets for the transfer on the underground as standard, so you don't have to queue or buy tickets when you arrive. Equally, we can also organise transfers for you so that you're met at the Gare du Nord, taken by private transfer down to the Gare de Lyon, if that's your preference. And on sort of a good Paris traffic day, that journey should take no more than 25 to 35 minutes, but we'll always build in sufficient time for your connection, so you don't have to be worried about missing the onward connection. So, sorry about that, just needed to have a cough. Once you have arrived in Paris, as I say, you'll then connect onto the high-speed train TGV Lyria down to Geneva, and you'll spend the first night of the trip in Geneva. You can extend that for longer if you wish, but a one-night stay there to give you a bit of time to explore the old town. Before then, the following morning, really embarking on the rail highlight, really, of the trip, and that is travelling between Geneva and Milan on the Via the Alps routing. And as we move through the presentation today, you'll see that this Via the Alps route from Geneva into northern Italy really is the gateway to all of our Italian holidays here at Railbookers. So a journey of contrasting scenery this. Typically we have you leaving Geneva somewhere between 7:30 and 8:30 in the morning. It's about an 8-hour journey as well. So typically we would suggest an upgrade to first class. So you've got a little bit more legroom, a little bit more comfort for the slightly longer journey. But the scenery is magnificent. So you'll leave Geneva, skirting around the edge of Lake Geneva, passing the vineyards on the side of the lake before you start snaking into the Alps and up over the Simplon Pass, the old historic routing of the Venice Simplon-Orient-Express. And then as you arrive into Italy and move down to approach Milan, you also will travel past Lake Majori, for example, and we've got some photos of that coming up. But a really incredible journey with the mountains, with the lakes, beautiful, beautiful scenery from your seat as you travel. Once you've reached Milan, you'll then transfer trains onto the high-speed Trenitalia network, and you'll travel on a Freccia Rossa, the Red Arrow high-speed train directly from Milan to Florence. And we have you in Florence for a night, or indeed longer if you wanted to stay longer, before then traveling down to the Amalfi Coast, to Naples, to then connect onto Sorrento. And it's a 4-night stay suggested in Sorrento. And during that time, you also have a Herculaneum and Pompeii day trip. And you also have a day trip out to Capri, to the Blue Grotto. So those 2 full day trips included as standard, as well as a couple of days, of course, to explore Sorrento, relax and admire the magnificent view over Vesuvius there as well. So lots included here for a starting price of £1,529. Just a few images here then of the beautiful coastline of course, Pompeii, bottom left, Florence, bottom right, with the day trips included. And we can always add in extra day trips as well, extra excursions, extra sightseeing options, depending on what interests you. Really, at the end of the day, this is your holiday, so we can add in and include anything really that you're looking to do. You just need to let us know, and we can build it really. So next, a classic combination of cities really that proves to be still very, very popular for our customers, and that's our Venice, Florence and Rome holiday. An 8-day trip, starting price £1,249 here. And as you can see, as I mentioned, the via the Alps routing is in this one as well. So London to Paris, Paris to Geneva for one night, and then traveling through via Milan, this time to Venice, and a suggested 2-night stay, respectively, in Venice, Florence, and then Rome. Whilst you're in those cities, again, sightseeing and excursions included, including a walking tour in both Venice and Florence, a gondola tour whilst you're in Venice, the hop-on, hop-off pass, which is a great way to get your bearings in Rome from personal experience. And that's all included as standard. And then at the end of your holiday, 2 choices really, either to fly back to the UK from Rome, or alternatively, if you wanted to do this as a round trip, really easy to do, traveling north to Turin, a one-night stay added on in Turin, and then a really civilized return rail journey back there. Typically, the following morning leaves Turin about 10:30 in the morning via Paris on a direct high-speed train. Will have you back in St Pancras at about 7:30 that evening, with sufficient time to then travel on to your onward destination. Now, I mentioned the Simplon Pass and some of the views. This is of Lake Majori, and as you can probably see in the foreground, you've got some very blurry looking palm trees. This was taken by one of our own members of staff who travelled on this route last year. It shows how close you get to the lake and the sort of view you can expect, particularly if the sky is that blue and the sun is out. It's a really, really spectacular view from your train seat, just to give you an idea of some of the scenery you'll experience. And then really 3 cities that require very little introduction: Venice, Florence, and Rome. But what I will mention here in terms of the excursions and sightseeing, all of that can be changed. All of that is flexible as well. So if the walking tour is included, but you're not particularly keen on doing that, if you'd like to know what other suggestions we have, if a food tour, if a cooking session perhaps is more of interest to you, then do let us know, because we can absolutely swap any of those out for something that you would prefer to do. Now, slight variation here, sticking with Venice, but a different combination and a different routing here, just to show the variety that we have. So this is Venice, Verona, and Lake Garda. The Italian lakes were very, very popular for us for sort of August, September lake getaways this year, continuing to be very popular for 2021 departures, whether that's Garda, Como, Majori, also combining those with the Orient Express. So we have lots of different itineraries that incorporate the Italian lakes. But I've picked this one just to demonstrate a slightly different itinerary. This is a 7-day trip with a starting price of just £799. And this is based on flying in both directions, because some people still do prefer to do it that way. Otherwise, of course, you can do it via the Alps with the train to Venice and back again. But just to go through this one, so it's a suggested 2-night stay in Venice. Again, gondola ride, walking tour included there, before then moving on via high-speed train directly to Verona. Verona, I think, very often overlooked as an Italian stay, really, city stay. Place I was fortunate enough to visit, although a number of years ago, but a really lovely, compact, cozy, almost kind of Italian city, really. Very, very easy to explore by foot. Some fantastic Roman architecture, aside from, of course, the famous amphitheatre, but lots of little piazzas to sit and while away a few hours with a coffee or something stronger. It's a really, really lovely place to spend a few nights. And then after Verona, it's on for a further relaxing stay on the shores of Lake Garda in Desenzano for 2 nights, before then returning either by air, as I say, back from Verona Airport, or indeed back by rail, which would be done via Turin, back to the UK. So just a few images here, of course, and as I say, this is Verona, a beautiful city that very easy to explore by foot. I stayed there for 3 nights, a great base, and plenty of things to do and wander around, much more than just Juliet's balcony, of course, which it's famous for, but a lovely place to stay, and a really authentic kind of Italian experience, I think, as well. And then Lake Garda, of course, and what we always do with our stays in the Italian lakes, Garda no exception, the hotels are always beautifully located right down on the shore. So you get the view from your hotel right over the lake, but you also have the proximity to the town or the resort centre, so that you can go and have that pre-dinner drink, stroll after dinner, and have that sort of opportunity to explore as well, and also really easily then positioned to pick up one of the ferries and go over to some of the smaller islands, have a little nosy at some of the fabulous palazzos around there as well. Now, bringing a little bit of a different Swiss feeling into one of our very popular right now Italian trips, and this is our Florence and Bernina Express trip. So this is a 6-day, 5-night itinerary with a starting price of £977. So let me share with you this itinerary and how this works. So starts with a Eurostar from London to Paris, but then on this particular trip, you'll travel down to Zurich directly from Paris. So again, the same transfer from the Gare du Nord to the Gare de Lyon, but this time traveling directly to Zurich for a one-night stay in Zurich, or longer if you wanted to extend, but a great opportunity to explore the old town, particularly in Zurich, before then moving on to one of the probably the most top 3 scenic rail journeys in the world, I would say, the Bernina Express. And you'll travel down via Cour to join the Bernina Express, traveling from Cour to Tirano. Now, we'll have a look at the Bernina Express in the next slide or so. Then once you've finished the Bernina Express, that's just a one-way trip on the Bernina, you will join the Italian network in Tirano to travel to Milan. You have a night in Milan, which I think is often also actually overlooked as somewhere to stay rather than just connect through. But obviously, world famous Duomo Cathedral, but a lot more besides. It's got a great castle that's walking distance from there as well, which I visited when I was there some 20 years ago. But yeah, again, a lovely, lovely city to explore for a night or two. And then from Milan down to Florence, and you have a 3-night stay in Florence. During that time, you have a small group walking tour, plenty of time, of course, to sample the famous Florentine steak, to perhaps visit the Uffizi Gallery. Lots to do, of course, there. And then at the end of the holiday, again, you've got 2 options, either to fly directly back to the UK or to take that journey back via Turin, back up to Paris and back to London. Just a few images there of those fantastic combination of cities. So you've got Zurich top left, the Duomo and historic centre of Milan there on the top right, one of the many palazzos in Turin bottom right, and of course the famous skyline of Florence on the bottom left. And then for the Bernina Express here, it's often on people's bucket list, the Bernina, and it is one of the world's most iconic, most scenic railways, no doubt about it. The red carriages there kind of belie how spectacular it is, really. It has been declared a World Heritage UNESCO protected site since 2008, so approaching its 13th year now. It's a 4-hour journey in each direction, and during that time you cross an incredible 196 bridges. You'll travel through 55 tunnels, and you'll cross the stunning Bernina Pass, where of course it is named from, which is at 7,391 feet above sea level. So again, a journey as with many, but in this case really, really spectacular variation of scenery from the valleys up to the highest pass. You have, as you can possibly see at the sort of end of the train, now all the trains have these panoramic windows from sort of waist height round to ceiling, so wherever you're sat you have magnificent views as you travel. The staff on board always ready to shout when the next photo opportunity is coming up, so you don't miss anything as you travel. And the first section of the Bernina Express travels between Cour and Pontresina, and you'll cross over the famous, one of the world's most famous photograph sites, I suppose, by rail, which is the Landwasser Viaduct. And if you have one of the Railbookers worldwide brochures, that's the image on the front cover, with the magnificent huge arches made of limestone there. So you'll pass over that on the Bernina as well. Now, sticking with the Bernina, but with an itinerary, I think saving the best till last with this one. And this is our Venice Simplon-Orient-Express with the Glacier Express and the Bernina Express. We have seen a huge amount of interest in Orient Express bookings for next year, not least, I think, because it really didn't have the opportunity to run this year with COVID. But also, we know that the Orient Express will begin running again in spring next year, but with already reduced capacity so that they can ensure social distancing in the common areas on the train. So we know that availability will be less than usual, and so therefore, if you are interested in looking at an Orient Express holiday for next year or indeed 2022, then please do let us know, really, to avoid disappointment and make sure that we can get you booked. So let's talk about this magnificent itinerary, a 9-day trip starting price at £5,279. If you're looking for something to celebrate next year, looking for something for a special occasion, then this really is the holiday for you to try. This starts with the Orient Express, probably the world's most famous train, of course, from London to Venice. So let me talk you through the itinerary here. So you'll start at London Victoria, and you will board one of the older British Pullman carriages in Victoria and travel down to the Kent coast before moving on to a luxury coach to make the transfer across the English Channel on the Eurotunnel. And then in Calais, you will board the famous and legendary, really, Orient Express carriages. You will then be shown to your private cabin. And you will settle in there for a few hours before then enjoying a wonderful full-course dinner on board that evening, perhaps after a pre-dinner drink. And whilst you are having dinner or that pre-dinner drink, your cabin will be transformed into a cosy bedroom cabin for your night stay on board. So you'll spend one night on board the Orient Express there on day one. The following morning, you will have breakfast served in your compartment as you continue through the Swiss Alps. Beautiful scenery as you travel. You'll have lunch in one of the dining cars on board before you retire back to your compartment. And the scenery continues really as you travel through the Dolomites. And if you were still hungry, have no fear, then afternoon tea is on its way before you arrive crossing the Venetian Lagoon into Santa Lucia station in Venice. I've been fortunate enough to travel quite a lot by train over the last 16 years. I have to say that nothing yet has beaten the arrival into Venice by train. If you haven't done it, I would highly recommend it. It is very hard to find a more iconic arrival, really. To Venice Santa Lucia station, you get off the train, you leave the building, and the canal is right there. Free to join a water taxi to take you to the hotel. So it's a really magnificent arrival point for sure. So you have that 24 hours, slightly maybe nearer to 30 hours on board the Orient Express to reach Venice. You have a 3-day stay in Venice or longer if you wanted to extend. You have a small group walking tour, a gondola ride included, of course, in Venice. And then it's ready to travel on to the rest of the rail adventure. So on this one, you will leave Venice and travel via Milan to reach Tirano. And this time you'll pick up the Bernina Express in the other direction. So you'll travel from Tirano up to St. Moritz on the Bernina Express. And you'll have a 2-night stay in the fantastic resort of St. Moritz, which we'll look at shortly. You will then, after 2 nights stay there, travel up to Chur, the oldest town in Switzerland. And from Chur, you will catch the Glacier Express, one of, again, the most scenic journeys really in the world, often nicknamed the slowest express train in the world. And this you will do the full route from Chur to Zermatt, which is just shy of 8 hours end to end. You'll then have 2 nights in Zermatt, and during the time there, you'll also have a day trip on the Gornergrat, which is the world's steepest cog railway, and I'll have a few more details on that coming up as well. And then after the 2 nights in Zermatt, it's back up to Zurich for either a return flight home or the return rail back via Paris and then back to St. Pancras. So quite a holiday, lots included. Some magnificent iconic rail experiences, as well as beautiful city of Venice all of that alpine scenery. It really does tick all the boxes, this one. So let's have a look in a little bit more detail about the onboard experience. So as I say, the Orient Express, really the perfect way to celebrate a special occasion, with fabulous scenery as you travel, attentive service really from everybody on board. Nothing will be too much for the staff as they look after you. You can have just a glimpse of some of the alpine scenery there, bottom left, and the carriage there, the restaurant car from the outside. Inside, just an idea of what it looks like, very much traveling back to the golden age of travel, dressing for dinner, staff immaculately presented as well. And the lounge car here, the blue lounge car, very much the social hub of the train. Perfect for afternoon tea, for a pre-dinner drink, for a nightcap after dinner, very often the piano playing in the background as well. It is a magnificent setting for a rail journey. And on the left-hand side there, you've got an example of one of the dining cars. Now, there are 3 different dining restaurant cars on board the Orient Express to Venice, or from Venice. Each has a slightly different style, slightly different decor. And if you wish, no obligation, but if you wish, the staff can accommodate you in different restaurant cars, different dining cars for your dinner and for your lunch the following day as well. So you can experience the different surroundings for each meal. Talking of meals, as I say, not going to go hungry on the Orient Express. The food really is first class, particularly given the small confined kind of kitchen area that they have to prepare it in, but first class as you would expect from the Belmond team. Lots of seafood, very often included langoustine, lobster from Brittany, as some of the pictures here show. But of course, they can accommodate any dietary requests, dietary requirements, and always a wide choice on the menu for every service. Just wanted to give you an idea of the cabin accommodation as well. There is a range of accommodation on board the Orient Express, of course, from cabins all the way up to suites. But I wanted to share with you the twin cabin, which is what our Orient Express packages are based on from a cost point of view. So this is the twin cabin here. The image on the top right is how it would appear when you board in Calais. So it's ready for the daytime with this banquette style sofa for the day. When you leave the cabin to go for dinner, the stewards will come in and convert, as you see on the bottom images there, the banquette into a lower and an upper berth for the evening, complete, of course, with the world famous Orient Express slippers that you can see at the bottom of the ladder. And they do also have their own washroom facilities here as well. As I say, there are a range of different accommodations with ensuite, with the full suites as well, grand suites, but wanted to give you an idea of what the twin cabin specifically looks like. And then just a quick mention of the other Swiss destinations that are included in this fabulous holiday. Firstly, Zermatt. So when you disembark the Bernina Express, you'll spend a couple of nights in Zermatt. Beautiful location in the Engadin Valley, just underneath or at the foot of the Pisner mountain. Beautiful location in the winter when there's snow. Great hiking opportunities, really easy paths to follow. Also an opportunity to do cross-country skiing here at the right time of year too. In the summer, beautiful lakes as you see here. There is one specifically for swimming as well. Boats to hire, lots going on in St. Moritz at any time of the year, but a beautiful place to spend a few nights as well. And then Zermatt on the right hand side in the shadow, of course, of the Matterhorn. And the day trip that we include in Zermatt is on the Gornergrat Railway, as I mentioned. That goes directly from the village centre to the top of the Gornergrat mountain, which is at 3,089 metres in just 33 minutes. And from the top, it's probably one of the most beautiful panoramas you will experience in terms of alpine scenery. You can, on a clear day, and I stress on a clear day, see as many as 29 different 4,000 plus meter peaks. So really spectacular view at the top. And that first began running in 1898. So just one of the things to do whilst you're in Zermatt. And then lastly but not leastly, just a quick view on the Glacier Express that runs on this holiday from Cour through to Zermatt. Nicknamed, as I say, the slowest express train in the world, 8 hours end to end, again with these beautiful panoramic windows. So whether you're in standard class, first class, or indeed excellence class on Glacier Express, you have a fantastic view of the real contrast in scenery from the valleys, the gorges, the waterfalls, right onto the top of the glacier itself. Again, also World Heritage protected. And on this one, 291 bridges and 91 tunnels. Great to do at any time of year. Doesn't run in November and December, but January through to October, really not a bad time to do it. From the snow in sort of January through to May, the alpine flowers that come out on the tops from May onwards. It's a lovely, lovely trip to do at any time of the year. So I hope that's given you some ideas about some of the Italian trips, Italian combinations, multi-city, multi-destination, multi-country holidays that we can offer with Italy as well. Hope it's given you some inspiration to look forward to for 2021 and into 2022. Just a brief mention of our website, railbookers.co.uk. Lots of information on here. It's not bookable. We do prefer to speak to you when you're making an inquiry or booking, because every single holiday potentially could be different. So we really like to understand what's important to you, which is why we prefer to do that on the phone. But you will find more information on all of the holidays that I've talked about today. They will have their own holiday page with the network map, a day-by-day itinerary, pricing grids all the way through to 2022 and lots more. We do have a great trip planning section there as well, with more details on the different levels of accommodation, luggage allowance, that sort of thing. But I would also say we are very much open Monday to Friday, 9 to 5:30. So if you did want to ask us anything after this presentation is finished, do give us a call on 0203 780 2222. We'd be very glad to help and answer any questions that you have subsequently. As you probably know by now, we do run these presentations every week. Just wanted to give a brief mention to some of the topics that we've got coming up over the next few weeks. On the 27th of October, next Tuesday, we'll be turning our attention to Scotland specifically and looking at some of our holidays there, some new ones as well, but looking at some holidays closer to home with that one. Following week, 3rd of November, we'll be looking at our Via the Alps holidays, not just Italy, but also Switzerland, Austria, and looking at Alpine holidays generally by rail and the best routes to take there. And the following week, 10th of November, we will be looking at luxury rail experiences to consider for 2021. So I hope you can join us for some or all of those. Do look out for the newsletter invites, or alternatively, just pop in the questions box that you'd like to register for one of those, and I'll take care of the registration for you. And at this point, it is over to you to answer any questions that you may have. So I'm just going to have a quick scan through. I can see a few questions. So I've got one question here. Can you do a one-way trip? Absolutely, no problem at all. Total flexibility. So yeah, you can absolutely do it as a one-way. You can do the itinerary in reverse. Lots of different ways, perhaps off the back of a river cruise. You could do it in the reverse back. If you're on an ocean cruise that disembarks in Venice and you wanted to do Venice via the Alps back to London one way, absolutely, yeah, no problem at all. I can also see a question about brochures. We do indeed have brochures available in a PDF format, and we can send those through to you after the presentation today. You can also request an online brochure on our website, and you will receive the link to view the PDF online for that too. I can also see a few questions about assistance. So let me just take that as well. We can organise assistance for passengers that require it in the stations with the train companies. So whether customers are perhaps wheelchair bound, whether they need assistance with their luggage because they have a walking stick, or need that sort of assistance as well. There's a whole range, a raft really of assistance that can be provided within the station to take them to the train, to get them onto the train comfortably, and then at the other end to help them disembark. We can also book private transfers, as I say, but the caveat really is these are independent holidays. If your customer, if you're happy to travel with that assistance within the station and to the hotel, but then in the destination happy to be independent on those trips, then absolutely. And we can, as I say, provide that assistance in conjunction with the railways. All the prices that are quoted today, just to clarify one question, they are based, yeah, they are per person prices. And I'm just seeing also some questions about whether we offer the Trans-Siberian and other trips in Asia. Absolutely, yeah. So we have a wide range of holidays worldwide. What we've looked at today, really just to touch on, of course, with Italy is the European destinations, but we have holidays worldwide in the USA, Canada, Japan, China. We can do the Trans-Siberian, of course, as well. South Africa, Australia, India, a whole wealth of destinations worldwide, and you'll find those worldwide destinations on our website. So I think I've touched on everybody's questions. If I haven't managed to get to you or if I've missed you, I see one more. What age are children? That varies in some instances across carriers and cross rail companies, but in general, 11 and above is considered an adult. 11 and under would be a child fare on the railways. If I haven't got to you, I think I have, but if I haven't managed to get to everybody, then our team of experts will be giving you a quick call after the presentation to answer any questions. And in the meantime, really, all that's left for me to say is thank you very much for joining me this afternoon. Hope you found that useful and interesting. Hope it's given you some ideas on some of our fabulous Italian holidays. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday afternoon and hope to see you again soon on one of our online presentations. Thanks very much for your time. See you soon. Bye-bye.